Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the TRVL Travel Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Snell, and this is our 14th episode. And we have a very special guest today, an old friend of mine and a bit of a podcast mentor. This is Darren Spoonley from Ireland. Darren, why don't you introduce yourself if the listeners or viewers don't know who you are?
Hello, Greg. Thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor and a pleasure to see your face again on a screen, but it's so comfortable for me not to be hosting and to be the guest on this occasion. So my name is Darren. I'm a landscape photographer. I'm based here in beautiful Ireland. I've been a photographer for as long as I can remember, and I've always had a camera either in my hand or in my brain. Let's put it that way. I'm passionate about Ireland. I'm passionate about landscape photography, and I'm passionate about sharing the benefits that people can get by enjoying the outdoors, and what a great way to do it than with a camera. So that's me.
Absolutely. And Darren also is the host of the Irish Photography Podcast, which had over 170 episodes and was just a great listen for a number of years for me. And I was actually able to join as a guest. So we're sort of switching the roles here with Mr. Spoonley. And I want to use this opportunity in this episode to dive a little bit deeper into one specific location. And you've probably guessed already that is Ireland. So we're going to do a bit of a country spotlight here on the Emerald Isle and talk to Darren, who is an Irish landscape photography expert, been working as a professional now for a few years, and has just got an incredible portfolio of images from Ireland. So yeah, let's dive real deep, Darren, and go back, hundreds of years. So some of the settlements in Ireland I know are probably like before Christ. We're going back Celtic times, the whole Catholic religion, Vikings. Tell me a little bit about what inspires you from the history of Ireland to explore the land where you live.
Okay. So Ireland, yes, has a long history. And as you said, before Christ times, we've got settlements that are around Ireland, and there's still remnants of those as well that we can still visit to this day. It has gone through a number of different iterations over the years, but the one thing that has remained constant is the landscape. And the landscape in Ireland is second to none. And I've said it many times before, if anybody has ever heard me talk on anything in the past, I would say Ireland has it all, except we are short is rainforests and deserts. Now, some would argue that we do have rainforests because it does rain in Ireland quite a lot, hence why we get the name the Emerald Isle. We are situated right at the edge of the European continent, and the next stop from us is America or even Canada. So we get the prevailing weather coming in across the Atlantic at all times. And that's one of the things which has formed our amazing coast that we have here. We have got some incredible cliffs, some pristine beaches, some incredible areas to explore, and some areas that I still haven't explored. Even though Ireland is such a small island, it is still packed full of photographic opportunities. And we can touch on a number of different things throughout this about Ireland, but I mean, we're going to talk mainly and primarily about photography. But I prefer for us to get to the photography, believe it or not, last, because the Irish culture is something I think which is resonating with so many people around the world. The Irish diaspora, nearly everybody in the United States of America has somebody who is related in some way to somebody from Ireland. And it is something that when you talk about Ireland, most people globally have a fondness towards Ireland. Our people are very open, friendly. We do like to have fun. We're very welcoming. We have a phrase in Ireland which is Céad Míle Fáilte, which means 100,000 welcomes. And it is something that we pride ourselves on, that if anybody does come to visit Ireland, be that today, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 50 years ago, that it leaves a lasting memory in their mind, that not only do they enjoy it, but they also want to come back. That's the case for hundreds of years. Ireland, as in the Republic of Ireland, is split into two. So we've got the Republic of Ireland, which has 26 counties, and then we have Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, that has 6 counties. Ireland became a republic in 1922, so we're still a fresh republican country, but we are an island that has been around for a long, long time. Exact time, I'm not quite sure, but as I mentioned a second ago, there are early settlements that are before Christ's time, so that will give you an idea of how long Ireland is there.
Yeah, well, let's start there. So, I mean, if you're going back to some of these first settlements, what I see in Ireland when I picture it is the dramatic coast, as you say, the cliffs of Moher, the whole Wild West, and this idea of like castles and ruins, ruins of abbeys and churches. I think there's a bit of a romanticism almost for North Americans, myself included, with this whole kind of medieval times and castles and kingdoms and that history. So, I mean, you've been to every county in Ireland. Do you have sort of some favorite ruins that you have been to? Like, can you give me an example of like an old castle and the story behind it?
There's a lot to answer in that one question, to be honest with you. I don't really have a favorite, but there is one area that stands out to me, which is in West Cork. So I'm from Cork, which is one of the largest counties in Ireland of the 26. And in the very western point of that, southwestern point, you've got a headland called Three Castle Head. And Three Castle Head is exactly as it's described. It's a headland that has three castles right at the edge of the cliffs, right over the water. They're now ruins, but they have a long and dark history, let's just say, with different clans would have been in charge. We would have had a number of times over many hundreds of years ago with different kings in charge and clans in charge in different regions. And I think from memory is the McCarthy's that had this, which were quite a strong clan, let's just say, of ownership of land. But this is something that you don't even look at but realize. And what I mean by that is, as you're looking at it, you don't believe what you're seeing. It is three ruins of a castle perched precariously right at the edge of a cliff on a stunning area of Ireland, with turquoise blue waters all around it, green fields, mountains in the background, and then there's a giant lake as well that's in front of that too. So it looks like it's not real. It's one that I remember reading about when I was a kid, and again thinking this can't be real. And I went to visit it, believe it or not, during COVID times when I got an opportunity to travel, when they started to lift restrictions and I could go anywhere in my county. So I said, I'm going to go to the furthest most point in my county. And I went down to Three Castle Head. And it blew me away. It absolutely was incredible. You can get in around these ruins. They were featured in a couple of movies as well, but they are something that is just incredible. Not many people know about them. Not many people go visit them. And that's why I like it so much. However, let's flip that. So you've got a thing in County Tipperary called Cashel. So it is Castle of the Kings. It sits right on top of a hilltop. It has commanding 360-degree views of the entire area. It's a huge tourist attraction. So people can go and walk around the grounds of that. You've got, the old cathedrals that are within there as well, the old round towers that are within there. It still has the boundary walls. It works great from a photographic point of view. And it's something that people who will visit will come and they might arrive into Dublin, they'll get on a tour bus and they'll take a day trip down to visit this. And it's accessible for everybody. So it's not one that you have to go hiking across, I often joke with people that come here, our hiking trails are the trails that were created by sheep. And we have to just follow along the footsteps that they've created, right? Whereas in Cashel, it's very accessible. And it's one I think that would be high on somebody's list if they were to come to Ireland to visit that, because it is just absolutely stunning. So there's a lot, Greg. I can't just pick out one. I picked out Three Castles because it's something that's I like, but from a general population point of view, Cashel, I'd say, would be up there too.
Yeah, Three Castle Head sounds like the perfect example. So thank you for sharing that. For our listeners and viewers, be sure to check that out on Google Images, and you'll see what Darren is on about. So let's talk a bit more about Irish culture, because I think a lot of people listening to this probably have been to Ireland and have had a little bit of taste. But it is, you're right, worldwide very famous for things like St. Patrick's Day, for golf, for really bad weather, great English accent. You guys have such a strong accent when you speak English. It's absolutely fantastic. You got a lot of slang. There is also the Gaelic language. I mean, you just did give us one saying. What is your take on like the exports of Irish culture that you think ring true back home, living in Ireland?
Here is one which everybody is aware of, which is Guinness. And Guinness is something that has been exported all over the world. It has become synonymous with Ireland, but it was actually owned, believe it or not, by an English family back in the day. But that being said, it's something that people would associate Ireland with. Our culture, you've got the Gaeltacht, which is our Irish language, and our Irish language is something that has been reinvigorated over the last number of years, trying to get more people speaking Irish, because if we don't speak it on a daily basis, then it becomes lost. When we're in school, for example, it's mandatory for us to learn Irish. So we learn Irish from the age of 4 or 5 when you first start in school until you're 17. And I was one of those people. But even at that, my Irish now is very limited because I don't speak it on a regular basis. But that being said, the things that come on the spin-off of that, the Irish culture. So you mentioned there, for example, St. Patrick's Day. Not St. Patty's Day, as people in the US sometimes call, and I always am very quick to pull them on that. It's either Paddy's Day or St. Patrick's Day, not St. Patty's Day. That doesn't exist. But that's something, again, you look at Chicago, they dyed the river green for St. Patrick's Day. You've got Patrick's Day parades that are all around the world, and that's something that's celebrated from an Irish point of view. What comes with that is have fun, have parties, have crack, as we call, which is the Irish for fun. Go for drinks, have good food, and not just in Ireland, but all over the globe. It's celebrated in that way. Our culture is something as well that really resonates with people because, people by people, you remember people and you remember the interactions that you have with people. And we're very welcoming from that point of view. We have a very mythological creature here in Ireland called a leprechaun. Have you heard of a leprechaun, Greg?
Yeah, of course, man. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah, so a leprechaun is something I think which is phenomenal from the intrigue that people have around leprechauns. And, a funny story I've heard many, many years ago, we've got a thing here in Cork actually called Blarney Castle. And within Blarney Castle, you've got a thing called the Blarney Stone. And the old legend is that if you kiss the Blarney Stone, it gives you the gift of the gab. It gives you the opportunity for eloquence in your speech. And it's highly popular from a tourism point of view. Now, this story, I'm 99.99% sure that it's true, but there's still a possibility that it's not, but it's got to do with leprechauns. There was a guy who was in charge of Blarney Castle, came up with a great idea, one of the summer seasons, which was quite popular from a tourism point of view. He hired 4 or 5 local kids, dressed them up in leprechaun outfits and said, okay, your job is to run around and to hide in the bushes. And to every so often, pop your head out or make a noise and people can think that there's leprechauns around and such like that. Brilliant idea until it backfired on day one when one guy, a tourist, spotted one, chased inside the bushes, grabbed the kid, picked him up by the scruff of the neck and said to his wife, I got myself a leprechaun, honey, we're taking him home. Meanwhile, the kid was screaming about all different profanities, let me go, blah, 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 blah. And of course, they had to get rid of that idea as well. But there's the kind of the stretch that's there from the mythical idea of Ireland. And that's one that resonates with me, is that there's so many things around Ireland that are not just in Ireland, that they echo all over the world.
Yeah, well, let's transition to the landscape, because I do think that part of that mythical sort of romanticism of Ireland is the dramatic landscape, the green fields, the stones, the peat, this just incredibly fertile land that's had people living there and farming for countless centuries and generations. So, you've been to every county, as I said earlier, the country extremely well, even though you say there's still places you've never been. What would you say is, like, from a photographer's perspective, some of the most kind of dramatic or interesting landscape features?
For me, clearly, as a seascape and passionate seascape photographer, it's going to be the coast. And we have a thing here, which was a very good idea that Tourism Ireland came up with a number of years ago, where they created this concept called the Wild Atlantic Way. And it is a route of road network that you can take. It starts in my home county here in Cork at the old head of Kinsale and travels the whole way up the coast of Ireland for 2,500 kilometres and ends then up at Malin Head. All along that, you have unbelievable scenery, unbelievable cliffs, unbelievable beaches. You mentioned a second ago the peat. So we've got boggy lands in the centre of Ireland, but we also have boggy lands at the coast. One thing that we have very little of in Ireland, if you're interested in native tree photography, is something has changed over the last 100, 200, 300 years, is at one point Ireland was 97% trees, but that was then taken down from a farming point of view, and also for shipbuilding when England were controlling Ireland, such like that back then. Statistically, right now, I think we have around 10% of the Irish land is now covered in trees, and of that 10%, just 3 or 4% is native Irish trees. So a lot of it has all been replanted with pines and such like that for renewable forestry. That aside, from a coastal point of view, we have some of the most pristine beaches. And from a photography point of view, and I must be careful when I say this, because you'll come here as a photographer, you may not see another photographer for a day or 2 days or 3 days, depending on the locations that you go to. Now, if you look at some of the areas like Iceland or Faroes or whatever, that will never be the case, because you'll go to these areas and you're falling over other photographers. So Ireland still is untapped from that point of view. And it is something that people that I have brought here from different tours over the years, they arrive with an expectation and they leave with an expectation which has been surpassed and then surpassed again. Notwithstanding that, you have a great place to come, accessible, let's just say, but obviously without trails. We have to, forge our own paths in the bigger scheme of things. But then on top of that, you come and take photos, and in the evening time, you go and get some of the best food in the globe comes from Ireland, because our beef is one of our biggest exports. You look at milk and butter, Kerrygold butter. Anybody who's watching this, they will know if they have had Kerrygold butter, it is the best that they can get. Our beef is all grass-fed, so they can get some phenomenal food. Our vegetables are as fresh as you can possibly get. So you're not just coming to an area where it is raw and then you have to kind of slum it for the evening time. You can have a raw landscape and have a phenomenal culinary experience as well. Some of the finest local coffee shops around the country. And you mentioned something here about I've visited all the counties. Yes, I have. I did a project this year trying to support a charity for mental health, and I said I wanted to photograph all 32 counties in Ireland. But as one of the challenges I added into that was that I had to have a coffee in a local coffee shop. And I wanted to experience the locations for what the culture can offer. And it was phenomenal to go into a coffee shop, let's say 9:30 in the morning, and you've got groups of people that are all sitting there, they're all chatting, they're all having a conversation over a coffee, a sandwich, a scone, or whatever it might be. And that's something that also resonates with people, that when we bring them to these locations, they can't get over that culture that's there too. So there's so much, Greg. I could be waxing lyrical for 2 hours about those areas, but I want to try and keep it as concise. But what I will say to you is, have your expectations, but keep those expectations high, because they're going to leave, they're going to be even higher.
Yeah, I love listening to you, man. It's very obvious that you've done this multiple times before as a podcast host yourself. But the Irish Photography Podcast was, again, one that I loved listening to. And you're right to mention the Wild Atlantic Way, because Tourism Ireland has had a very good reputation within the travel and tourism industry for over a decade now of promoting, their land to multiple different markets. It's not only photographers, not only Americans, but people and families to come and experience Ireland. And actually, I've been to Ireland once with a tour company. I went with G Adventures when I still used to work with them. That was back as a freelance tour leader in 2016. So I actually joined a tour as one of the tour leaders and led a trip through Ireland, which was extremely daunting. Given the whole history and all the information about Ireland. But I was lucky to have a lot of local support on the ground. And we just had an amazing trip, including to Kinsale. I didn't know that was in Cork. That's interesting. I'd forgotten. Okay. So where exactly are you? Where do you live?
So I'm in Cork.
You're in Cork. Okay.
Yeah.
Is Cork like a city within County Cork?
Yeah, Cork City is within County Cork. So Cork City is... Cork City is the capital of Cork, but you could also ask people from Cork, and they would say that Cork is the real capital of Ireland. So it's a joke, obviously. Dublin is the capital. But to expand on that joke, I tell people, yeah, I'm from Cork. I'm a well-balanced individual. I've got a chip on both shoulders.
Nice. All right. So Ireland's obviously absolutely an incredible country, which is why I wanted it to be our first country spotlight. But as this is a travel photography podcast, we've touched pretty good on the travel aspect and why people want to go to Ireland. So let's touch now on the photography side. So you've got the book Coast behind you, which I do want to touch on. You said that the coastal scenery is some of the stuff that inspires you the most. Tell me about the seascapes. I mean, what are we looking at? Can you get right down under the water? Is it a lot of like long exposure stuff? Do you get big waves? Are you looking at storm photography? What would you say from a landscape photography perspective is so good about the coast?
Well, all of the above that you mentioned, plus around 45 more. So I alluded to the coast. Let's talk about storms for a moment. So storms will generate in the Atlantic coast, and then they will come across, and the first bit of land that they hit is Ireland. Our coast has been shaped by the prevailing or constant Atlantic forces for thousands of years. You can get some absolutely incredible spells that will come through, so much so, if we pivot for a moment, just up by Sligo now has been added into the surf yearly locations.
Yeah, like the tour, right? The World Surfing Tour?
Yes, so that's been added in now because of the size of the waves that we would have as a constant basis coming in there. And some of the biggest waves ever recorded and surfed have been off the coast of Ireland. So it kind of pivots off from that point of view. Wind is something which is constant here as well, because again, the winds will come from the Atlantic. So that gives you an opportunity to experience, the rawness of being by the coast. You've got cliffs. You've got Slieve League cliffs, I think, which are 684 meters. I think they're the tallest cliffs in Europe. And again, that is stunning, not only to witness, but if you're a photographer, to go and photograph that. Our beaches, you can get right onto the water, absolutely. We've got some of the most pristine beaches. Some of them are 20 kilometers long, and you've got turquoise blue waters. If you're into wildlife, you've got a huge amount of bird life that all along the coast of Ireland. You've got the largest population of gannets, which is just off the coast of Kerry. If you're into puffins frequently here the whole time. If you're into whale watching, so we have humpback whales, we've had orca whales, we've got omnipresent dolphins all over the country, and that's just along the coast. But then if you go further out from that, you've got some of the best islands that I've ever seen, which are just off the coast of Ireland. Again, all their own uniqueness. Some of them would be purely Irish speaking only. So if you wanted someone to immerse themselves and get the experience of Ireland, go to one of the islands. The Aran Islands is an example, just off the coast of Clare. And then we have some of the best areas to explore. And if you just wanted to kind of relax and unwind, you could have a beach here. Right next to that, you've got a dramatic cliff. Behind that, then again, you could have a sea waterfall. So because it rains quite a lot in Ireland, we've got rivers that will go into the ocean. And from a type of photography point of view, it's endless. You've got your long exposures, which I'm fond of doing. You've got your fast exposures. I've got photographs taken of waves that would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 meters high. And they're crashing into the cliffs. And the power and the feeling of that is absolutely addictive. And it's something that I find people, they've got, again, an expectation for, and then all of a sudden they go, I've never done wave photography before. Wow, I love it. And I want to come back, and I want to come back, and I want to come back. So the possibilities are endless, Greg. It's not just limited to one type. You have your wide angle lenses from your Vista. You've got your telephoto lenses that you can pick out small things within the landscape. And then on top of all that, you've got something I know you're quite fond of, is your aerial photography.
I knew you were going to go there, man. I knew you were, because you have a really good eye for drone flying as well. And some of your videos over the last year and a half, 2 years have been some just amazing aerial stuff. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the drone perspective.
Well, the drones, it's the best thing about it really is that, as you know, it gives you an elevated view that you won't get from the land. I use my drone for a number of different things. I use it for video because I want to have B-roll within my videos. I also use it for scouting. I want to be able to see if there's going to be a different viewpoint. The area I mentioned earlier about Three Castle Head, that really comes into its own when you're using your drone. And the best thing about Ireland is that the restrictions aren't as draconian as other places. So yes, you have to, know what you're doing with your drone. You have got limitations that you can fly your drone, but it's not a case that there's no drones allowed. There are only a handful of locations now that I've seen that there's no drones allowed, and that's mainly because they've become popular with tourists, let's just say. So you have to be careful of that. We have some incredible views, particularly on the headlands. The map of Ireland, for those that are familiar with it, Ireland is a small country, but we've got fingers of the map that come out on the bottom left-hand side on the westerly, the southwest of Ireland. And some of those headlands are absolutely amazing. And I mean amazing, particularly when you're there and you set your drone up, send the drone out, as you will know more about, look back in, and you get some incredible views of the entire land. But then on top of all that, we call it the 40 shades of green or 50 shades of green. I'm not sure what the exact number is. But you get all that, and within one image, you see all those different variances of green in the headland and then also in the inland. Mountains as well can be really nice. Now, some people would joke that Ireland doesn't have mountains. We just have big hills, because our tallest mountain, which is Carrontoul, which is in Kerry, it's just over 1,000 meters. And its second neighbor and its third neighbor just so happen to be the second and third tallest mountains as well. But they're not mountains for many people, but they're mountains for us. And I would challenge somebody to say, yeah, it's not a mountain, I'll take a walk up it and I won't feel it. They'll feel it. That's for sure. So we've got a huge amount of variances that people can photograph.
Yeah, and you've been, leading the way in the last few years in doing so. So had you not visited every county before you took on this project just in the last few months? Like you said 36, right? That includes North Ireland. So am I right? Is that 36?
32.
32, excuse me. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about it. Had you been to every county before?
Okay, so Ireland has 32 counties. There's 26 in the Republic of Ireland. There's 6 in north of Ireland. I had visited or passed through all counties at some stage in my life, but I hadn't photographed in every county before then. I had wanted to do something like this for a long, long time. Funnily enough, where my inspiration came from was from a guy from the US. He's a young enough guy. His name is Ryan Trahan, and he does a lot of different kind of projects through YouTube, and he's very good at bringing awareness to different charities. And if I was ever going to do this, I wanted it to be for a charity. So I decided that I wanted to go and not only visit all 32 counties, because again, I wanted to photograph them, but I also wanted to add some additional challenges into place, as if that wasn't hard enough. I said, okay, I wanted to score a goal in a GAA goal, and I'll touch about GAA briefly, if I may. So our national sport is GAA, which is the Gaelic Athletic Association, and it's split into 2 parts. You've got hurling, which is the fastest field game in the world, and that's effectively 15 players on each team. They've got a stick, which is known as a hurley, and they've got a ball, which is known as a slitter, and they have to score a goal without all padding or anything. It might be, only thing they have for protection is a helmet. So you can imagine that there are some quite interesting games and speed games, let's just say, in relation to that. And the second half of GAA is football. So you use a standard size football, like a soccer ball that people would know of, and then you'll score goals with that, or if it goes over the bar, it's a point. So I wanted to introduce something like that when I was doing my 32 counties, because like I said, photographing all 32 counties, yeah, it's a challenge, and it is trying to find the right locations, get there at the right time, know where you're going, get a shot of meaning, let's just say. But I wanted to add another level, so I had to score a goal in all 32 counties. So I had to find a GAA pitch in every county. And I decided to take my son's hurley and his slitter. So I said he's the only kid in his club that has a hurley and a slitter that scored a goal in all 32 counties around Ireland. I found something quite interesting during that. Was trying to find the locations was a challenge that were open, or that I could actually go and score. But when I found ones, I was welcomed by the GAA community with open arms. And it was really heartwarming when I told them what I was doing, and they were amazed at what I was doing. Fair play to what we're doing, and they were telling me more information about the GAA within that county as well. The other thing I wanted to do, because again, I hadn't visited properly all 32 counties, and again, not only taking a photograph and scoring a goal. But I said, all right, I'm not going to be sedentary during this. So I'm going to at least give myself an opportunity to have some exercise. So I must hike at least 1 kilometer in each county. Some of the days I did 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Other days I just did over the 1, just depending on where I would have been and the location that it was at. But at least it kept me a small bit fitter than just being in the van, driving, getting out, taking a shot, and stuff like that. The fourth thing was to have a coffee. Like I said, I wanted to experience the culture in each of the counties, and that was something which was phenomenal because it gave me human interaction. Don't forget, I'm doing this on my own, so I didn't really have much human interaction, except for the GA clubs or except for the coffee shops. And talking to the people within the coffee shops, again, was heartwarming. And then the final thing of all that was, that's not hard enough, but okay, release a video and do a video every day. So I did 32 daily vlogs as well. And as you will know, as a man who has done dailies in the past, you know, once you get into a rhythm, it's fine, but it's trying to get into that rhythm and trying to juggle everything else as well to make it happen can be the challenge. So I wanted to make sure that I had all those boxes ticked, but on top of all that, to go back to the original question, I wanted to make sure that I had visited all 32 counties in Ireland, and I'd photographed all 32 counties in Ireland. And thankfully, by the time I had it all done, I did all 32 counties. I had hiked close on 50 kilometers in total. I took 36 images. I scored 32 goals, and I drove just under 3,200 kilometers. So it was almost 100 kilometers for each county if you wanted to average it out. But it was a phenomenal thing to do. And again, I did it all because I wanted to raise money for a charity, which was called Pieta House, which deal with suicide and suicide awareness and bereavement and helping people that have been affected by suicide. And particularly in men, and majority of people who are photographers, it's predominantly male. And I wanted to associate in relation to that as well. The campaign is finished on the 14th of October, and I raised just over €5,000. So I'm very proud of what I've done. I'm very proud to, you know, highlight Ireland to a bigger audience as well, all 32 counties. And then on top of all that, to close it all out, I put all 32 counties images into an ebook, and that ebook then went up with all proceeds of sale. So that went to the charity as well. So something I'm very proud of, and not only proud that I achieved it, but proud that the people got behind it as well and gave me the support from all 32 counties in Ireland, not just the 26 in the Republic, obviously, but the 6 in Northern Ireland as well.
Yeah, I hope that story inspires some of our listeners and viewers. That is just absolutely incredible. Congratulations, Darren.
Thank you very much.
I know that you had done this. I mean, I've been following since the beginning. As you know, I've sent you a few messages about it months ago when you started. And to hear you summarize it like that is very inspiring. So yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff, man. Where can we see this? I know, is it darrenspoonley.com? What's your website handle?
Yeah, so my website, I'm advantage is my name is quite unique. I'm the only Darren Spoonley in the world. So if you just type in Darren Spoonley, it'll bring you to my website. So I never have to go, I'm Darren Spoonley photo or Darren J Spoonley this or whatever. Just search my name, Darren Spoonley, and you'll find my details.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to link all that in the description as well as the Spotify description. So if you guys are listening, be sure to check that out wherever you're listening to this podcast. But yeah, man, what a crazy story. I mean, I love it. I love the whole story. So like, what inspired you? When did you come up with this idea? Like, are we talking a couple of years? Did somebody, I'm sorry, you said the Ryan YouTuber, but like, where did you kind of come up with the idea? When did you say, okay, I'm going to do this?
I suppose it's been something that's in the back of my mind for a number of times because I'm passionate about Ireland, but I hadn't photographed all around Ireland. But I didn't want to just do it piecemeal. I wanted to do it as some sort of project, and I couldn't really put my head around what the project was going to be. This guy, Ryan Trahan, he did something for St. Jude's, which is a children's charity in the US, and he was visiting all 52 states and staying in an Airbnb in all 52 states. And myself and my wife and my kids would watch it each day, and I was like, you know what, this is incredibly inspiring. But what also made me, you know, to do it when I did was the response that he had. He wanted to raise $1 million for this charity. He ended up raising over 13.5 million at the very end of that. So I said, you know what, I set off on mine while he was only halfway through his. And I remember in my first video, actually, I mentioned where the inspiration had come from and timing as well. I said, you know what, and from a selfish point of view, I wanted to see if I could jump on the algorithm back of it while he was doing his in the US, if I was doing mine in Ireland, I had more of an opportunity for fresh eyes to see what I was doing, more of an opportunity for fresh eyes to see how beautiful Ireland was, and also the charity, more of an opportunity for the fresh eyes to be able to support that charity as well. It was something that wasn't easy, for sure. I had it planned within an inch of its life. You know, I knew exactly where I wanted to go, when I wanted to go, how I was going to get there. I had plan A's, plan B's, and plan C's. The weather in Ireland, you know, I always joke and say the weather forecasters in Ireland have the easiest job. All they have to say is cloudy, chance of rain, and they're right 95% of the time, right? And when I set off on my original journey on that, I started in Cork because I'm from Cork. And I got incredible conditions in the first morning. I had breaking light. It was raining during the light. And I got a shot that I said, you know what, this is a great omen for the start of the whole trip. I didn't see the sun again until I got to County 11, I think it was. So it was grey, and it is grey quite a lot. But that's good because, you know, us landscape photographers, when we get grey conditions, we call it atmospheric and moody conditions. And that's exactly what I would have had across a number of different locations. And then actually something that just came to mind is on top of all that, I wanted to go to locations in each county that I had never visited before. So I wanted to open my eyes to new areas and see how hard it would be for me to find a composition that I hadn't found before. And that in itself, I think, was probably one of the bigger challenges, because I wanted to try and capture an image which personified the county. I could have gone to ones, obviously, that I knew, you know, that I'd visited hundreds of times before, but that would have been too easy. And what it did end up doing actually is it broadened my horizons. It broadened my perspective. I shot a lot more of old castles, which you mentioned a moment ago. I shot all pretty much inland. I'm a seascape photographer. The first seascape that I photographed in the entire trip was on day 29. So I wanted to show that there was opportunities there for photographs that were not just seascape. And again, challenge myself, you know, and the ethos behind it, Greg, was it's a small bit of pain for me, but the people that I'm doing it for can get a lot more benefit from it. And I was willing to put myself through that to help other people as well. So it was a good project. I'm proud of what I achieved, a lot of planning, a lot of ideas, and I'm glad that I did it. I was also, by the way, very lucky with the network of people that I have met in Ireland over the years, good friends that I have in the landscape photography world, that I was able to have pit stops along the way, you know, meet up with them, have a shower, which is a very important one, particularly when you're sleeping in the van each evening, you know, have a shower and sit down and edit at a table as opposed to editing in the van. So my shout out, I suppose, to my good friends, and thanks to them as well for, you know, being so accommodating and supporting me along the way. It was something that I will not forget in a long, long time.
Yeah, sure. I think from an inspiration standpoint too, for yourself, trying to find new compositions, because I think a lot of people struggle photographing their own backyard. You know, especially if they've been doing it for years and years and years, you know exactly what location you like in the best conditions. And if those aren't happening, then you aren't inspired to be there. So, you know, trying to find those new perspectives is a good challenge. And I would encourage anybody listening or watching this, you know, to take the camera out and try and put yourself in that uncomfortable zone. I mean, for me, it's street photography. So I live in Hamburg, big city, and I still have problems, you know, taking my cameras out into the middle of the city, vlogging and trying to make a video. So I need to try and do that more often to get a bit more comfortable with street. But yeah, good on you, Darren. That's great. So
one other thing actually that you were talking there, Greg, something that comes to mind, a bit of advice I can give people to do that. Something that I teach my clients in my workshops and such like that here is how to approach a scene. Most people are looking for composition tips. You know, we all know about the settings. Generally, that's the first thing that we learn, but how to compose a good image. And it was something that again, like I said, I teach, but I put into practice. And my approach is very simple, is that when you arrive at a scene for the first time, stop. Don't take your camera out of the bag. Just look with your eyes and identify something which I like to call the star of the show. So what is the star of the show in this scene that you're looking at? Like any good Hollywood star, they need a supporting actor or supporting cast to prop them up. So look for the supporting actor that's going to prop up that star of the show. That could be a leading line. That could be something that mimics the main shapes that you have. It could be curves, it could be shadows, it could be light. And then the third thing is just look for a third element. That third element could be detail in the clouds. It could be breaking light. It could be a bird if you're by the sea. It could be something of color which matches or whatever it might be. But if you look for those three elements, then you can find an image a lot easier than not knowing what you're looking for at a bigger scene. Because landscape photography, as you will know, as also, a workshop leader, it can be overwhelming for people when they first see a place. They go, wow, this is beautiful, but what am I looking at? What am I photographing? So find the star of the show, then get the supporting actor, and all you need is that third element, and then you are a lot easier to compose that image, regardless of where you go, not just in Ireland, but anywhere you go worldwide. If you just look at that approach, then it helps you to compose your shot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a really good way of thinking of it. Let's transition a little bit to that book behind you, because yeah, you've got this this next project, which I already know about. Are you comfortable sharing in this podcast about what's coming up there?
Of course, I am very comfortable sharing what
like Gavin Hardcastle would be, but this actually isn't for sale yet. So
no, all right.
Let's tell the people what you're gonna do next, because this is we got a photographic exploration of Ireland's coast. Right on. All right, talk to me about the book.
All right, so it's so big I can barely fit myself and it in the screen. So this is something that I've been working on for effectively, without even knowing it, for the last 15 years, because it's a collection of my images around the coast of Ireland. Ireland's coast is something which I love, and I wanted to be able to put a body of work together that I could showcase how beautiful Ireland actually is.
Okay, so sorry, so these aren't photos from the 32 county trip. This is separate, right? These are the last 15 years, some of your best work.
Yes.
Is it like a location guide? I mean, what are we looking at here?
So this is effectively a photo book, a coffee table photo book, which has some beautiful images. If I open you up here, this is my prototype. So we just pick one random image here. So this is one of the storms that are off the coast of Ireland. Again, we'll pick another one here. This is one of the islands that are off the coast of Ireland, again, in some dramatic light. So I wanted to create a book which not only showcased all of that via images as a coffee table book, but I also wanted to appeal to a wider audience. So somebody who has visited Ireland before, somebody who has relatives in Ireland before, somebody who wished that they could visit Ireland before but never could. This is my stab at showing you how beautiful Ireland can be. Secondly, from the photography point of view, I've included the settings that I've taken for each of the images. So for every image, I enclose the settings that I would have taken there. You see it in the bottom, and then you've got your image here. On top of that, you've got the story behind the image, so I can tell what happened on the day. Was it any challenges that were there or whatever it might be? And then the final part on that, because I do this on YouTube as well, if I've recorded a video while I was doing that image, then I put a QR code that somebody can scan, and they can scan that and go watch me create the image that they're looking at in the book, read the story behind it as well, and all while in the comfort of their armchair or whatever it might be. It's something that I've always wished that I could do. Like I said, this is the prototype. This is a soft cover version. It's also going to come in a hard cover version as well, and I'm going to launch it on Kickstarter. So the beauty of Kickstarter, I think, is the opportunity is there for me to not only utilize my existing audience, but also the Kickstarter audience. And with Kickstarter, I think it's great because you get an opportunity there to be able to show people without having me to go off and say, okay, how many of these do I need to get printed? I'm investing my money in getting those printed, and then I'm hoping that they sell. Kickstarter effectively is pre-sale, and it's something I'm excited but also both nervous about, Greg. I purposely placed it here because I couldn't have Gavin, show me up and how he could do his skitvertising of his book. I just said I'd put product placement in the back. But funnily enough, Gavin actually wrote the foreword as well for me in the book, which I'm honored to have. But actually, it's his pleasure to be able to be in my book, because my book is the first time he's ever been asked, believe it or not, to write a foreword. Be that a good or a bad reason, I'm not sure, but he gave me a very interesting foreword in it as well. So I'm hopeful that will be in the next coming weeks. If I could, Greg, once I get it all done and I know I can get it produced, I'll send you on the Kickstarter link. So once we go live in this video, if I've got that in place, or later somebody watches it, they can always pick up a copy of it as well. I'd love for them to experience it, to share it with people. Don't buy one, buy two. They're great Christmas presents as well. And it also gives people an opportunity to really experience and feel what I felt while I was taking the images, the rawness of the Irish coast. And I've taken images all over the Irish coast, is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, in the globe, particularly from the small area that we have. When you think about the size of Ireland, right? It's a small island. It's in the North Atlantic, and it doesn't even tick a box as far as states in the US would be. But we pack so much in and so raw that I wanted to be able to try and at least capture that in photographic form for anybody that would be interested, that has relatives that are in Ireland or from Ireland, particularly in the US. I think that's something that could be hugely beneficial. So I'm excited, but also nervous to do it.
Yeah, it's something that fits really well into the whole theme behind this episode with the country spotlight. Like, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on was because of the 32 county trip, and then when we were chatting just before this, I asked you, like, what's the deal with the book in the background, and you told me about your next project. So I'm very happy to hear about that, and it being sort of a culmination of all of your work as well over the last 15 years. So it really does add to the theme of the spotlight. And I mean, it does say, like, the exploration of Ireland's coast. It's you've definitely hit the nail on the head here with being able to feature Ireland, in your videos and in your print work. So very, very cool. Tell us a little bit more, Darren, about, like, what you plan on doing in the future. Like, what's the continuation of, you've got this book coming out, I'm sure, but what about, like, workshops and, hosting people in Ireland? What else can we learn about how you share Ireland with the, photography community?
Well, yeah, okay, very good question. I have to be careful because Ireland is effectively like a hidden secret, right? Not many people come here for landscape photography, and at the moment that it becomes popular, it's the day it loses its authenticity. But at the same point, I think there's enough room, particularly around our coastal areas, for people to experience it. I do that via, you should say, my YouTube videos. I'd also do that from the workshops that I would do, or even the one-to-ones. And the one-to-one is something, I think, which is highly beneficial for somebody because you're focusing purely on them. Workshops are great because you can make great friends on workshops. And I've hosted a number of workshops over the last number of years, but only recently I finished up 2 with other photographers, by the way. So we have Chris Byrne from Destination Earth, who did a workshop here for 11 days in August. And then we just finished wrapped with myself and Bernard and Michael Schoenblum as well, for his Irish workshop here. And it's something that I really enjoy because people come for the photography, but they stay for the people and they stay for the crack, let's just say. We're planning more again now in 2026, again with Chris and also with Michael, and other ones that I'm working on as well, which I won't tell you they are until they get signed, sealed and delivered. But I've got a few that we're working on at the moment. And then I've got my own workshops, which I do to different areas around Ireland too. So people that would be in Ireland that wouldn't have visited these locations, Irish people, or even somebody from the UK or coming from Europe. It's a very quick Ryanair special, as we call it, over to Ireland, and you're there photographing before you realize it. The diversity that we have is incredible, and it's something that always excites me. Like my good friend Bernard, who's been doing these things for the last number of years, something I would have asked him is, how do you keep yourself, fresh when you're going to all these locations on a regular basis? And his answer was quite poignant, was that when you see the landscape through somebody else's eyes, it opens your own eyes to just how beautiful it is. So, most people can see things and take them for granted because they're on your doorstep all the time. But when you see the excitement in somebody's eyes, you get excited as well. And I think that then becomes infectious because you have them getting excited, you getting excited from them, then they're getting more excited from you. And we had a very good example of that is off the coast of Ireland with the Chris tour. We always rent a rib, so it's a 12-seater rib, and we go off out around the islands, and we book it specifically for sunset. But on this particular day, it wasn't called the Wild Atlantic Ocean. It was actually the calm, flat lake of the Atlantic Ocean. There was no waves. So we went off out in the boat and we said to the boat captain, is there any opportunity for us to get out past one of the islands that myself and Bernard had admired from the land? And we knew there was something at the back there that we wanted to see. Yeah, no problem. I think she'll be able to get out there. So, not only did myself and Bernard get to see it, but everybody else on the tour got to see this, which nobody generally gets to see. And the island is called the Sleeping Giant, or in Irish, it says on Farmarav, which is the dead man. So it's an island that looks like a man lying. You see his head, you see his neck, you see his chest, you see his stomach. And it looks like that shape from the land. But from a certain area in Dingle, you could see one little thing sticking up by his neck. And you go, what is that? So we wanted to see what it was. So we went out, and it's an unbelievable spire, which is at the back of the island that nobody can see from the mainland. But it was like something out of the movie Jurassic Park. And we got to experience that. And the funny thing is that myself and Bernard hadn't seen it before, but we had expectations. And we were at the front of the boat as the boat was coming around to reveal it. And the two of us were screaming at the top of our lungs with excitement. So much so that the clients were going, are they okay? Is there something wrong? What's going on? And we were like, wait a second, that 4 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and then bang, they could all see it. And they all erupted in excitement as well, but mainly because we were so excited. Then they got excited, then we got excited. And before we realized it, everybody was doing a dance on a boat without any music, but to the beauty of what they were seeing for their eyes and also through their cameras. So workshops, I think, is where it's very, very rewarding, as you will know. As an accomplished workshop leader yourself, it is something that when you get somebody to a place that they may never have heard of or have heard of and wanted to see it, and then they see it, it fuels you even more so. So I have a number of things, like I said, that are planned even now in 2025, and as we go into 2026, and we're planning for 2027. Myself, Chris, and Bernard are doing a week in Ireland and then a week in Scotland. And the Scottish leg is already sold, and the Irish one is selling fast as well, and it's only just gone live. So there's definitely an appetite there for it. And I'm more than happy to show people the beauty that we have, like I said, and to go all the way back to where we started this conversation, the culture that supports and props up what people see in their cameras. Who would think that a piece of inanimate black plastic, glass and metal can bring so many people to so many different places, get them out of bed in the middle of the night when they're nice and warm in their blankets, get out into the freezing cold, get wet, but still have fun?
Yeah, no, I hear you. Absolutely. I think the cultural aspect is very appealing when it comes to Ireland, for sure. Actually, we have a bit of a side story with Newfoundland in Canada having like quite a strong Irish heritage as well. And that there's like a very unique accent from Newfoundland. So yeah. I think as we're wrapping up the podcast here, just for the crack, I can give you my Irish accent.
Oh my God! I heard this once before. And I said, "Don't ever do it again."
The Irish Photography Podcast. So for you and Diarmid. Oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned Diarmid, which is terrible. I hope that he's listening to this. But Diarmid, I remember him just laughing at my Irish. So this one's for you, Mr. Diarmid. Okay. So I said to me mum, "Let's get out in the boat because I want to go fishing." She said, "What kind of fish are you looking for?" I said, "I'm looking for cod, Mum. I want to get some codfish. That codfish is real good if you put it in the deep fryer." She said, "Oh, yeah, I like codfish too." And I said, "Yeah, me too, Mum. Let's go get some then, eh?" And she said, "That's a good idea, son. Off you go. Off you go on your boat." That's my terrible Irish for you.
Yeah, it is terrible, to be fair. It is terrible. But it's you did a better job than Tom Cruise when he played a part in Far and Away many, many years ago.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, but you mentioned about Newfoundland as well, and I think it's quite interesting. You had a recent guest on your podcast there who's in Nova Scotia, Mr. Gavin Hardcastle, who came to Ireland actually and visited me in 2023. And not only did he enjoy the photography, not only did he enjoy the culture, but he absolutely loved the Guinness and wants to come back for more Guinness as well. So, people can come over for photos, but end up spending more time inside in the pub, listening to Irish music. Look at the Irish music and how much it has spread and influenced around the world. And that comes from the culture. We're telling stories of the past. Ireland's history is something that, if you delve into it, there's a deep, deep history there. And a lot of things originate. Dracula's story came from Ireland. Bram Stoker was going to college in Dublin and wrote Dracula. And that comes from the old Irish ghost stories, and Irish ghost stories would have come because before there was TV, you'd sit around in the evening around candlelight and you'd nothing to entertain you, so you'd make up stories, and that's where the old ghost stories would have come from. And then not the accents that you would create, but in proper Irish accents.
Yeah, Diarmid O'Donovan and Bernard Garrity. How do you say Bernard's last name, by the way? Bernard.
Well,
Garrity?
you say his first name right anyway.
Bernard.
Yeah, Bernard. Yeah, Garrity.
Yeah, I thought it was Garrity. Yeah, so
but not Bernard.
No, Bernard. And,
yeah,
and Diarmid.
Yeah, Diarmid.
I challenge anybody listening to spell. But I love it. It's such a fantastic accent. And listening to your stories has been just great. So thank you so much, Darren, for being a guest on the TRVL Travel Photography Podcast. And guys, for sure, check out Darren's links in the description below, his YouTube channel, his website. And hopefully, if the Kickstarter is live, we'll have the Kickstarter link down there too for your book.
Trust. Yeah.
So, Darren, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a good week. Oh, sorry. Before we leave, give me one quick answer, if you can, relatively quick. What would be your definition of travel photography? And you can take it from an Irish standpoint.
Travel photography is more than just a photo. It's the story that goes around it and wraps it all up, that when you look at the photo, you remember the feelings that it gave you while you were taking that shot.
In a traveling perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, because that could kind of go for anything. But give me the idea of being in Ireland, for example. If you're an American traveling in Ireland, how would you explain travel photography in that case?
Well, number one, you might be photographing a wall that's twice as old as the United States of America. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the people that are around you that will give you the stories of what you're photographing, as opposed to an inanimate side of things. But also, it's the isolation of the Irish landscape is something that is second to none. So if you're traveling for photography, come to Ireland, because you're going to not only get great photos, but you're not going to be falling over other people as you take those photos. You will, of course, in bigger areas like Dublin or, Cliffs of Moher and such like that. But they're the well-known areas. We have so many undiscovered and untapped areas as well here that you're always going to be guaranteed to get a unique moment. And I think that's an important one, is you get a unique moment in a photo. If you go to Iceland, there's you and 65 other photographers all getting exactly the same conditions in the same shots. Come to Ireland, there's you and probably one other, and you won't even see them because they're so far away.
Or they're lost in the mist.
Yeah. Or lost in the Guinness. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. And you take care, okay?
Thanks, Greg, and everybody. Slán go fóill.